In this tutorial we'll be making this stunning druid crown fit for any sylvan lord. We'll start by printing out the pattern. All my patterns are available on Etsy. Cut out your pattern. But not with those first scissors. You want scissors like these. Leather shears have the same rules as fabric scissors. Assemble your pattern with clear tape. Masking tape works too. I go into more detail in this process in my box pouch tutorial, so go check that out if you want a step-by-step guide for prepping your patterns and applying them to leather. Use the first page of your pattern to help as an assembly guide. Now let's tape down our pattern and cut it out. Now we're almost ready to start carving. But how do we take an image off of the leather and put it on the leather? I'm going to show you 3 different ways to do it. The first one is to use graphite. You can take a pencil like this one from I Like to Make Stuff and draw with the pencil on the back of your design so you build up a good layer of graphite. Then we can take our pattern piece and lay it down on the leather we want to transfer it to. And all you have to do is draw back over the design. By pressing on the top of the design, you're pushing the graphite that's on the back onto the leather. See how that leaves a nice little impression? Super easy for you to trace. The second option we can try is to use something like this awl and use it to punch holes so that you can later connect the dots with your carving tool. The third option is to eyeball it, and that's what we're going to do here. We actually have a couple different tools for this process. The original piece we cut out, as well as the pattern overview. These show us the pattern we want to put onto the leather and give us a guide to look at while we carve. To make these markings, I'm going to use this tool called a Pyrography tool. It's basically a fancier wood burning tool, and that's actually what I originally started with for leather carving. I'll put links to both in the description. We'll turn on the tool and set our temperature for working with leather. I typically set it pretty high, but you want to make sure you don't go into this red zone over here. That will quickly wear down the metal of your tips and shorten the life of your tool. This is what the pen part of the tool looks like. It's got different tips that you can use to create different kinds of markings. I have sort of a fine tip one set in here, and it comes with this little stand that you can put water in to clean it off. A pyrography or wood burning tool makes a different kind of mark from your typical swivel knife that you use when tooling. It's sort of up to you to decide when you want to use this sort of mark as opposed to a different one. I really like it for making barked-like patterns in leather. The tips can be changed by adjusting this little screw that you see here. Pull out the tip, put in a new one. Just make sure you don't do it when it's super duper hot. If you're new to using a tool like this, I highly recommend you practice on some scrap pieces first. It takes a while to get used to what pressure you need, how hot it needs to be, and what tip you need in order to create the mark that you want. I find this type of tool really useful, especially for a natural bark texture in this case, because unlike with a swivel knife, I can create wider and thinner lines with the same tool all at once. It also burns the leather, so it looks really nice when we stain it because it keeps it this lovely dark color in all of the carved portions. This tool works very similarly to just a regular pen when you're drawing on paper. The more pressure you apply, the deeper and darker the line, and the less pressure you apply, the thinner the line. You just have to be careful because this is a hot tool. You need to move slowly and carefully, but you also don't want to move too quickly because then you won't make a good mark. Make sure you pause periodically while carving to clean off the tip of your tool. Just put some water in the sponge, not too much, just enough to make it damp, and you can tap off the residue, just to make sure your tip stays nice and clean. I really love the organic, natural look that the marks made by this tool have. Especially for these bark type designs, it looks really, really good. Make sure to let everything cool down completely after you turn off your tool before putting it away. Now it's time for stain. You can make this any color you want, but I'm going to use my favorite gel antique. Wipe it off with a damp cloth, and it looks beautiful. Again, I go over this process in more detail in my box pouch tutorial, so go check that out if you want to see how this particular stain works. In order to fit this lovely crown on our lovely heads, we're going to need to install some hardware. You're going to need a hammer and these 1/4-inch eyelets. To install the eyelets and make sure they keep the correct shape, you're going to need a setter like this piece here. It usually comes in two parts, the shaft and the base, like this. It fits the eyelet right into it to make sure the bottom stays nice and round, and then you hammer the other piece into shape using the shaft. You can see the first piece there I hammered on my anvil without using a form, but you can see the second one is nice and round thanks to that base that we used. Once we have all the eyelets installed, then we can apply our lacing. I'm going to use this black deerskin lace, but you can use twine, ribbon, whatever you would like to use to attach this to your noggin. I find that about 30 inches is a pretty good length to start with. If you have a particularly large head, you can go longer if you want. If you have a little itty bitty head like me, you can make it shorter. I like to use my fingers to bend the extruding pieces into a nicer shape so that it frames the face and the head. Congratulations, you now have a beautiful Druid crown. Enjoy! Thank you for watching.